I just realized I need to get water. Okay, so I have to keep riding the momentum that I'm on of the ADHD part of me that's recognized like, oh, I'm at the crunch time. Oh, I'm in like the, you gotta start doing this now. Otherwise, like, you could find yourself living in a van down by the river, and not even in a van, but in your car down by the river. Give me 1 second. Had to run outside. Okay, so. Okay. I've kind of been prefacing most of the videos that I've been posting to this channel with this information because I used to have another YouTube channel that I'm no longer sharing on since recognizing there will be people on that channel that will be kind of judgmental of some of the things that I'll be sharing because they can't see or perceive me correctly because of my neurodivergence, and that's okay. I'm doing this and creating a different channel to protect myself and to give myself a safe space to share. So this is what I'm doing to do that for myself. Now, this video is less about like giving information about, I don't know, tips, tricks, tools, and more of like a, hey, maybe you can relate to some of these things, or hey, you can like feel a little less alone or feel more community in some of the things that I'm going to share, because these are things that to me, every child is unique, and children are so connected to their light and their love and the source of like just being in this world. They're not yet programmed by life yet, that a lot of the times like little kids really gravitate towards me, and probably children probably gravitate towards people on the spectrum anyway, because I feel like in a lot of ways when you are on the spectrum and you're unmasked, or even if you're not, children are really good at being able to see through that mask. They just like, they want to be around you. They like to spend time with you because you're like them. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is people who are neurodivergent to me seem like they still have a strong connection to who they were as a child, connected to their inner child, especially if they're unmasked, and finding ways to support themselves with their sensory sensitivities and whatnot can really like be like a kid, be childlike, not in a bad way. To be childlike is beautiful. So I wanted to just briefly talk about some things. I didn't write a list. I should have written a list. Sometimes even when I write the list, I deviate from the list. So these are just going to be things that immediately have popped into my head that have been told to me through story, or things that I specifically remember, or things that I still continue to do today that stem from childhood that I didn't really recognize were like, oh no, she's just being a kid, but like, oh, she's like being a neurodivergent kid. And one of the first ones that always comes up that my family will always mention and bring up in story to other people is about how obsessed I was with the movie Jurassic Park as a child. And for a long time, like, even when I was little, like they told me I would like watch it over and over again all day long. And the second that the movie would end, I would be like, the movie's over. So they could rewind it and start it over again. And apparently I was not very verbal at this time. I was like 2. I was born in 93. Whenever it came out to VHS or whatever, I would just say, Park, I want to watch Park. And they said, my mom said she could literally do anything she needed to all day long. I would watch the movie. She'd bring me a snack. It'd be over. It's over. Rewind it. Start it again. And I would just keep watching this movie. And to be fair, Jurassic Park, I love Jurassic Park. And I was pretty obsessed with all the other Jurassic Parks, worlds, whatever. I'm not going to get into, I'm already like I'm not going to get into a tangent about Jurassic Park, but something I found interesting about the desire to do that over and over again, to me, I've spent some time with children now in the last couple of years, like under the age of 10 and in the early adolescent stages. And okay, that doesn't work because they're on the spectrum. I was going to say, and I noticed like we would watch Stranger Things over and over and over again. Like we would just keep watching Stranger Things. We never picked anything new to watch. Every time it was time for dinner, we would just keep rewatching Stranger Things. It was really bad, but we all loved it. I think that's what we really enjoyed about it, is that no one was upset that we wanted to watch Stranger Things again. So we kept watching it. But I think just this repetition of wanting to watch the same comfort things over and over and over again as a child definitely carried on into my adulthood. My first job was at a movie theater. I loved working there. I worked there for like 7 years. Became a manager at some point while I was there. Still wasn't getting paid what I'm worth, but that's another story for another time. But I just loved cinema and I loved movies. And when I would really find a movie I liked, I would just keep watching it and watching it. And every time I saw something new, another layer, I would find my favorite lines. There would just be like the score. And that was the thing that I noticed as like maybe just out of the last 2 to 3 years, that the real reason I loved Jurassic Park so much as a child was because there was on Disney Plus, they had a section for like kind of like documentaries or like non-Disney movies. I like perusing like the animal shorts and stuff. I like learning about like cats, like big cats and stuff. So I was watching through those, and then they had like other random documentaries, and they had one about John Williams, and he's the composer for the Jurassic Park movie. He was also the composer for Harry Potter and for Jaws and Star Wars, and like he has literally created the soundscape of like not only my childhood but most of 90s kids' childhood and even 80s kids. But his score for Jurassic Park, I recognized as I watched that whole documentary, which was amazing to watch because I'm also really strongly connected to music, and that's always been like not a stim maybe, but also a comfort. But his score in Jurassic Park was probably why I loved it so much and didn't recognize that as a child. Because if I watched Jurassic Park without that music, it's still an amazing movie, and I would still probably love watching it over and over again because I have a very weird niche joy. And I've explained this to people because I finally understood it, but I like movies where humans attempt to control animal nature and animals like kill humans. I used to have a pin on my little keychain. I had to wear a keychain when I worked at the movie theater, and one of my pins was from Jurassic Park, and it was "Woman inherits the earth. Dinosaur eats man. Woman inherits the earth." And that was one of the lines from the movie. But I'm trying not to get on a tangent on this. How much time do I have? Okay, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. This was a big one for me. That's why I'm spending so much time on it. I was so hyper focused on watching the same thing over and over again. And then the layers that would grow with that continued with me as I grew as well. And so it wasn't just the fact that it was about humans trying to control animals and then animals eating humans. It was also the score. It was also the setting. I later found out, and it was just like it was just like, it just made so much sense to me. I'm born on 626, which is Stitch, and I feel more resonant with Angel, which is okay, but most people buy me Stitch stuff because my birthday is 626. But I have resonated so much with the movie Lilo and Stitch because he is an alien who doesn't fit in, and he crash lands on Earth, and he has to learn how to find his family and his Ohana, and to like find the beauty in his nature and how he can use it to assist the people he loves around him. And he crash landed on, I didn't realize this until a couple years ago when I rewatched it with some kids. I was like, you guys haven't seen Lilo and Stitch, we gotta watch this. And in the movie, it zooms in on the island that he lands on, which I never paid that much attention to before. He lands on Kauai. Kauai is the island that they filmed Jurassic Park on. And so I was starting to get all these like different little connections, and I was like, oh my gosh, what if like since a child, like my entire life, I knew I was connected to Hawaii and like Kauai specifically, and it was just a whole different thing for me. But maybe that's even a part of like the AuDHD experience, is that pattern recognition, and also like finding new interests and hobbies and finding things that like call to you and like really resonate with you. There are things within that thing that connect to this other thing and then create this beautiful web of like just you. So I would say the main one was that I would watch Jurassic Park over and over and over again. I would watch The Hunchback of Notre Dame over and over and over again, and Anastasia over and over and over again. And like the music in a lot of those is really beautiful, but the themes in Anastasia and The Hunchback were also pretty dark. I was definitely drawn more to like the darker, like I like Don Bluth films more, like Secret of Nim. Like I got really into it, and I didn't realize this as a kid, but it was mostly all Don Bluth films that I was really interested in more than Disney. But that was one major thing before I went to the school realm. And then I would say as I moved more into going to school, that's when things got really hard. I was really into Lisa Frank. It was amazing. I had this book, I had a book bag, but I had this lunchbox, and like, this sounds really sad to say as I recall it now, but I was really gifted in reading and writing, but really bad at math. Like, so bad at math. It was so, like, I knew something was wrong in first grade doing math and watching all the kids around me do it. Like, I knew, like, I'm not getting something that everyone else is getting. But then in that same first grade class, I would be called out during reading time to go to the third grade class to read with the third graders. But when I would do that, like, all of the kids would stare at me, they grimaced at me, they didn't want me in there, they made me feel weird. So like, to me, it was like, I used to just love reading, and I loved reading the words, and it just felt good to like be in that. But then I would look up because the teacher would ask me to read, and the kids did not look happy. And so I started learning, like, oh, this isn't something I am safe to enjoy around these people. Like, these people, like, no one told me, like, hey, you're going to this class to read because you're a really strong and gifted reader, and we want you to be a part of this, and all these other kids in here too really like reading too. No, those kids were just in third grade reading their normal reading level, and I'm in here, and now I'm like, it wasn't, they didn't tell me like the kids in there weren't also gifted readers. They were just, I just happened to go in there with them. And so that pretty much messed me up. But that was apparently a sign too, was like being really good in one area, really invested in one area, really attuned and natural in one area, and then very like not in another. Where was I going with that? Oh, so then when I was in school, I didn't really have any friends, which is also very common, obviously. But something that I distinctly remember was I had two very specific lunch boxes. Oh, I'm feeling for my inner child right now. And I loved my lunch boxes so much. I'm trying not to cry. Because when I was at lunch, I could look at my lunchbox and talk to my lunchbox and interact with my lunchbox because I wasn't interacting with anyone. So my Lisa Frank lunchbox, I got to stare at it, and I would like, it was like kind of like not a chewy texture, but it was like a, I don't know how to explain the texture of the lunchbox, but it felt so good. And I would like trace my fingers around all the shapes of the Lisa Frank and all the colors, and it was just really healing to interact with Lisa Frank stuff because of, I guess maybe I was stimming with it and I didn't recognize that. And then my Mulan one was also just really beautiful because in a lot of ways I felt like Mulan and I didn't recognize that yet. So I really enjoyed that and I was really excited about that. I also want to say, in some ways, I moved almost every year of my school life from kindergarten to senior year. So I got really good at masking because I was moving so much. So every year I had to meet new people, which meant like, I don't know how to interact with these people, so I'm gonna act this way, and then move to another school. I don't know any of these people, so I'm gonna try and act like them. And I really, like, I became like the best chameleon ever in attempting to just try and make some kind of connection or friends. But for the most part, most people didn't really understand me. And I don't have any recollection or memories of what specifically like things I would say, but I knew I wasn't really masking yet until I saw their faces and their response to me. And then I realized like, oh, okay, what I'm doing isn't, they don't like that. So stop doing whatever it is you're doing. And that happened before my brain's even done developing. Like, I don't think we really think about how intense it is to be trained so well into masking as your brain is still developing, as you haven't even entered adolescence yet. It literally becomes who you are for a large part of your experience, which is why I think it's healthy for people who are on the spectrum to go back into their childhood and to find those things that you really found joy in and like yourself in, so you can find some more of yourself, especially if you started masking. And I have told my, I'm house sitting for a friend right now, cat sitting for him, and he is on the spectrum. And I told him recently, I feel like, because he grew up in the same place with the same people for his whole life, and I told him I really feel like I would have had a better chance at not masking had I lived one place my whole life and had the opportunity to have a group of friends that I found that I could be myself with, and that even if I was trying to mask in other classes or with other people, when I came back to these people, I could take that off, and then even become conscious that I was doing that, and then to be like, I don't need to do that, and I have people who see me and accept me, and I'm gonna I'm not gonna change who I am. But I didn't have that, so I just kept doing it. I spent a lot of time alone in my room, coloring, singing, dancing, just being by myself. I don't know if that's really an AuDHD experience per se, but I feel like a lot of kids on the spectrum probably do spend a lot of time alone, especially if you don't have friends or you struggle to make them or you're masking. So the one thing that really stood out a lot from my family telling me was my interest in watching the same things over and over again. I have very specific food desires and aversions, and that's kind of continued on, and that's I think a pretty obvious thing that most people on the spectrum can resonate with. Like could not let my food touch. I had to eat it clockwise, and I would turn the plate as I ate, and there were all these different rules I had for myself. The only time I was ever able to deviate from that was during Thanksgiving, and that's only because I felt like the foods made sense to be closer to touch one another, but only certain ones, and then that's a whole other thing, but that was something that was really highlighted to me, as well as like they said I was very, like I had a very engineering type of mind, which I still have now, because that has still carried on with me. And not in the sense, like I feel like every time someone hears the word engineer, they think of like someone who's building like a plane or like working with like, I don't know, big tools. But to me it was like they said like you could just take apart anything and then put it back together. And I mean, every time we moved, which was often, I was always the one putting the furniture together as a child. My mom said she would just bring me all the stuff and I would put it together, and I loved doing that. I think I liked putting things together more than I did taking them apart, but I still enjoyed taking something apart if I was allowed to, just to see how it worked. And I've utilized that more now in taking things that I just have at my disposal to try and make something I need in order to do something. So it's not like I'm doing it out of like, oh, I'm just feeling bored and I want to do that. I'm like, oh, I need something that's going to help me reach that thing over there. I have this, I have this, I have this. I'll put this on here and take it like that, and then I can get it. And that I find joy in. I don't necessarily, like I said, I'm just listing things that people have highlighted to me that I can see potentially are ADHD or autism, ADHD, AuDHD. I'm still learning how to say these things right. That I think are beneficial to share because they could help someone else potentially be like, oh, okay, yeah, no, I did that too. And apparently this isn't as common or typical thing to do. That was a really large one they brought up to me, was my engineering mind, my certain food sensitivities, my listening to things on a loop, watching things on a loop. And then, I mean, I feel like all kids liked Pokemon a lot. I collected Pokemon cards. I had a binder, and I learned about all the Mew and Mewtwo. Like when Mewtwo came out, I don't know what happened in my brain chemistry, but I was just like, that's me. Oh my gosh, that's me. But anyway, I think also my strong connection to Halloween. I'm not necessarily sure if this is a neurodivergent thing or not, but I feel, and I have an inkling, that most neurodivergents, maybe not in adulthood, but if you ask them from like high school back, if you ask them what their favorite holiday was, I bet you a lot of them would say Halloween. And I was obsessed with Halloween. And on the one hand, it's fun. You get to pick like a character you're inspired by, or a person, or a thing, or animal, or a fruit, literally whatever you feel connected to at that time in your life. You can emulate that and be out in the world in that energy and like go get candy and like just have, to me it was fun. Halloween's a little different now than it was when I was a 90s kid, but as I grew and reflected on my inclination and connection to Halloween more and more every year, I started to recognize too that a big reason I was so connected to Halloween and loved it so much and just like wanted every day to be Halloween was because it was one day out of the year where I felt like I could unmask by putting on a mask. It was like the one day a year where I could like dress in a way that I felt like, I wish I could just dress like this every day. Or I wish I could just like cosplay. Like if I had the time, the money, and the energy, I would totally be into cosplaying, because to me that is like what I loved so much about Halloween, is like you get to see an aspect of people's psyche or subconscious like desires or expressions that they want to have in what they chose for their costume. Like I learned so much about people through things that they were dressing up as for Halloween. And I just loved it so much. It was just so much fun, and it just felt so creative, and like the way in which we're not supposed to be, I want to watch my words there, but a way that would be so healthy and beneficial for people to utilize more in the day-to-day is to like express themselves however they want, no matter what that looks like, even if it's not Halloween. But I was really, 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 really into Halloween, and I loved scary movies. I loved watching like just probably things children shouldn't watch, honestly. I really loved Courage the Cowardly Dog. That was like my comfort show. And I don't even mean scary like that. Like me and my grandma were watching like horror movies. Like I could watch some really dark Candyman, like Jason, Halloween, all that stuff I was watching, and I wasn't scared. I wasn't like terrified at all by it. It was really interesting. But I would say those are the major things. I'm trying not to make this too long. Yeah, I'll start to close it up here. Another thing, signs of ADHD. I used to spin a lot in my, like, especially as I'm left out of like elementary years into middle school to high school years. A lot of times I would just be in my room and listen to music, and I would just spin in a circle. And I would just like, I didn't look up when I spun. I would just stare at the pattern my feet would make as I was turning, and it would like do something to my brain that I was moving so seamlessly in a circle, but my foot pattern looked so, I don't know how to explain it unless you stand in a circle and turn and watch your feet. I would just spin for hours. And eventually I found a way to do that without it looking interesting to other people by hula hooping. Because you can hula hoop and stand in one spot, but you can also hula hoop and spin. So I would just hula hoop and spin, and then no one really thinks it's that odd. They just think, oh, she really likes to hula hoop. I got really into hula hooping, and I didn't recognize this as a sign of AuDHD at the time, but like really hyper focusing on something you're interested in and like ingesting all of it that you can, like a lot. Like I like deep dive into something, take what I need from it, learn from it, enjoy it, and then I find something else. And that doesn't mean that I didn't like that thing. It's just like, that was the time and space that I utilized that for that, and then I find something else, and then at some point later on in the future, time is circular anyway, that thing will connect to this thing that connects to that thing that I'm talking about with this person that I can then share information about that's beneficial for them. And then I would say from middle school to high school, I mean, middle school, I was at a very racist school. So I started masking really hardcore in middle school. I just basically got interested in things that other people were interested in, but my one friend, it was like the first friend that I really made. I was so excited. It was in 7th grade and 8th grade. I stayed at one school for 2 years, which was like an anomaly. She showed me house music and techno. Like it was more techno, but it moved into house, and like I still love house music so much. I'm so grateful that she brought that to my life. She brought that to me, and Dance Dance Revolution. Those are like the two big things that really stood out to me that she brought into my life that I really enjoyed. I really got into that. But for the most part at school, I just like attempted as much as possible to be a white person. And I didn't have curly hair at the time. I would straighten my hair. I wore like Polo, Ralph Lauren, and just like tried to look as much as possible like everyone else so they would stop being mean to me. Being just so racially insensitive and ignorant. It was really embarrassing for them, honestly. But anyway, childhood, I still consider high school childhood. I still consider 20s childhood, but I'm not going to get into my 20s. In high school, I went to 4 different high schools, but in each one, it was really a big struggle to make friends, except for at the performing arts school I went to. And while I was there in theater, got to do theater art, tech theater, where you build the sets and whatnot. And then I tried to do literary arts, but I don't remember being in it for long, or I just didn't focus as much in it. But I did all the reading and course material that I needed to. But in theater, I got to take the mask off. And that's why I think it's so interesting that the symbol for theater is the 2 masks. I think maybe that's why sometimes a lot of neurodivergent people find themselves in theater or find themselves in performing arts and stuff, because you get to put on something and then take something off, but no one really knows when the mask is on or off because everyone's just letting personalities and inspirations and things come to them and leave them. So everyone's just kind of playing with energy. So I got to be weird. I got to take the mask off. It felt really good there. And then we moved. Obviously, I said I moved every year, so I got really depressed, and then I didn't talk to anyone, and I just lost myself in movies, and I just over and over again would just watch movies every day after school, and I just kind of zoned out and didn't want to be a part of anything. And then my last 2 years of high school, I started trying to interact more with people. I was in theater at one of the other schools I went to, but just like, I don't know, I never really had any friends. That may be one of the biggest signs. I keep looking over here because I'm reminding myself my childhood signs of AuDHD. I think friendship is a really big one. Like I had one friend in middle school, and then I had one friend in my junior year of high school. It was a guy, and maybe this will be something for you to think about as well if you're a female, is maybe it's more common for you to have male friends because there's just something not there. I think that's changing now with these younger generations. It feels like there's a lot more room and space held for like feminine connection and sisterhood than there was when I was growing up, which I really love to see. But at my age, there wasn't. And so there was a lot of weird animosity towards me from other women. So I didn't really have a lot of girl friends. So the friend I had in junior year was a guy, and we would walk all around Florida. I was living in Miami at the time. We would just walk everywhere. All we did was walk and talk. It was so much fun. I really loved walking. It's probably really regulating for me at the time. But the only thing I could say was potentially like maybe not a healthy sign of being on the spectrum was I was really into like picking my eyebrow hairs for a long time when I was really depressed my sophomore year. And like it was so I could feel something, honestly. And then I just couldn't stop. And my eyebrows were so thin. Like I basically almost didn't, like I always kept just a small amount because I obviously wanted to have some hair on my eyebrows, but like I would just listen to the same song over and over again every day, depressed, picking my eyebrows. It was Volcano by Beck. That song got me through a really hard year. And then junior year, like I said, had the friend. It was really fun to have a friend. I got to be myself around him. I never felt judged by him. He was probably on the spectrum too. I'm going to close this out in the next 3 minutes. So then high school year, I made one friend, but then I found out the only reason she was friends with me was because she liked the guy that liked me. And so she wanted to be closer to him by proxy of me. And then she told me at the end of the year, I never really liked you. I was just using you. I can't believe you couldn't figure that out, blah, blah, blah. And she said all this really mean stuff, which really kind of messed me up for a while. And then you're sent off into the world. And after all of that time, all of you've developed is how to mask and hide and change yourself and try to fit in with everyone else and slowly let go of the things that make you feel safe and grounded and regulated. And you have to find those things again. And I'm not saying that I need to wear Lisa Frank every day, but coloring a Lisa Frank coloring book is so much fun. I'm not saying I have to watch Jurassic Park every day, but sometimes listening to the soundtrack is really healing and soothing for my nervous system, and I'm going to do that. Sometimes singing Harry Potter around the house, the Harry Potter soundtrack around the house is really healing and soothing for me, and I'm going to allow myself to do that. Sometimes taking things apart and putting them back together is something I want to do. Sometimes I want to spin in a circle. Sometimes I want to dance. Sometimes I want to sing. Sometimes I want to stim in certain ways that don't make any sense. And sometimes I want to eat the same thing every day for a month. Sometimes I want to wear the same outfit every day for a week. Sometimes, this is going to get into another video, so I'm going to kind of close it out here because I'm feeling myself go into another video topic. So those are some signs I feel that I was probably AuDHD. I also really had, oh yeah, I love that I'm ending it off on this because I know someone out there is going to be like, yes, that's me. Yep. I had such sensitivity to like things on me as a child, like certain textures and touch that like threw me off so bad. I was already always sensitive to light. That was always a thing, but so was my mom. She's ADHD. So we always had a dark house. So I never really had a struggle with that until school. The taste thing, food sensitivities, I got to eat things that I enjoyed because she wanted me to eat food. So I got to eat things typically that I enjoyed. Sounds, usually it was quiet. My mom was a police officer, so she worked night shift. So it was usually really quiet in the house. I was just usually listening to the music that I was listening to from a movie. So sound was fine. Touch. One I can still feel myself in my child body in the room crying because my mom wanted me to wear this turtleneck sweater to school. And I absolutely hated the feeling of a piece of fabric wrapped around my neck. It literally, I can't even explain to you the pain, how bad I wanted to dissociate, but didn't know how to dissociate yet in my body from that sweater. That was the most painful experience of my life. And I cried and begged and pleaded, please, I don't want to wear this. I don't want to wear this. And I couldn't explain why. And I still, to this day, nothing. And that's probably why sometimes I don't, like, I've been cutting my hair off every year for my birthday. My birthday's actually coming up, 626. But nothing on my neck. And certain textures and fabrics, no. The way it touches the armpit, no. The way it goes across the feet, no. The way that shoe, like, I don't wear sneakers at all. I have to wear only flip-flops. And they're not in the toe, the one that just goes straight across your foot. There's no inside of my big toe area. That's not happening. And I do wear socks and sandals because I'm always cold. I'm really sensitive to temperature. So like that was a big thing, was definitely textures and touches for me, but I found ways to like regulate myself with that. Especially like people used to know, like in high school when I went to the school my freshman year and senior year, I went to the same one. They would know, oh, she's going to be wearing her gray sweater. And I always had the same, and the sleeves would go right across where my thumbs were, so I could rub my thumbs into it. I liked the buttons on it. It felt tight around my body. It held me, it supported me, it kept me warm. So touch has been a really big one, but that's not always very obvious to people, that they're AuDHD when you're sensitive to things on you and the touch of you. It's more like when you're sensitive to sounds, that's pretty obvious. Light, pretty obvious. Taste, everyone has taste preferences, but the touching thing, the fabric thing, the movement thing, yeah, that was a big one. So those are some of the things I just wanted to share. This is already a pretty long video. Hopefully you've heard some things of yourself or felt some little like, oh yeah, that sounds like me or something I experienced. That's what I'm hoping that this did. And also it was healing for myself to kind of talk out loud about it. Like I said, I don't have a lot of any friends. The person that I'm house sitting for, we don't really get to spend a lot of time regaling together. So thank you so much for listening and holding the space for this. I'm going to continue to just keep sharing things as I have the momentum to, so you're going to see me in the same outfit in the same setting in another video most likely. But as always, be gentle with yourself, take a deep breath, drink some water, and as always, I'm sending you peace and I'm sending you love.